Brian O'Driscoll's been named captain of the Ireland squad for the upcoming autumn internationals.
Have you finished? Oh, right.
I
Okay.
have.
Matt, thanks very much. I was just talking Doctor Who. That's all right. I was listening very carefully to your news bulletin as well. Remind me what the main points were.
David Beckham, does that ring any bells?
Oh, that's the one. I knew it was
yes.
in their story. Thanks, Matt. It's approaching 4 minutes past 2, and speaking about Doctor Who, because Russell T Davies and Benjamin Cook are here. They have written Doctor Who, The Writer's Tale, The Untold Story of the BBC series. Russell, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Benjamin, good afternoon.
Hello.
So the first question has to be, Russell, we know who you are. Benjamin, who are you?
I'm a journalist.
Why are you here?
I've interviewed Russell on a number of occasions over the last few years for Radio Times and for Doctor Who magazine. So that's how this book came about.
Right. So yes, explain the book then, Ben, because it apart from big, fantastic photographs and big chunks of script,
Yep.
it's essentially email exchanges between you and Russell.
Yeah, it's a year-long email correspondence which started in February 2007 and continued till March this year. And it was really because I'd interviewed Russell on a number of times before, and it was always very quotable, always very lovely. But I felt we could get a bit deeper. We could find out a bit more, and really, it's tackling that question of where do you get your ideas from, and it took us a whole year to answer it.
Yeah, well, that's a very unoriginal question there, Russell, isn't it?
But the question, actually, it's funny because you get asked it a million times and you go, oh, and you do a funny response. But actually, I wonder myself, it's like, it is something you dwell on. And I was just telling Ben the other day how much you dread the idea of stopping, actually. It's like, so I was interested in doing a really informal book about writing, because so many of them are formal and structured, and they talk about 3-act structure and stuff like that. And and when I read books and university stuff and media stuff about writing, it's all very technical, and that's not what it is to me. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's ideas. It's all the stuff burning away in your head and the effort of getting that onto paper. So it just became spontaneously a chance for the two of us to sort of try and capture that.
Is there, once you go back and have a look at it, in your mind, even if informally, some kind of structure to getting a fantastic Doctor Who story away? Establishing of a character, reference to the backstory, I don't know, some cataclysmic disaster after 22 minutes. I don't know. Is there some kind of formula which you try and follow or not?
Hard work.
Hard work.
That's what you should say, Russell.
In the end, there's no proper. I mean, Doctor Who's got an inbuilt formula, which is sort of there's some sort of alien out to do something bad, and the Doctor stops it. But within
you can't get away with that.
You might have noticed, but within that there's lots of variation. And actually, in a way, that's not what the book is about at all. It's more like it's sort of deeper than that, for want of a better word. But it is deeper than that. It's like where do you start thinking about where do those ideas come from? Where do those characters come from? And what's rubbish? You wake up and the whole point of it is that whenever you see script books and things like that, they're always finished scripts. But this is me sending. If I write 5 pages in a day, I send those pages to Ben on the spot, which you never normally send to anyone.
And why would you do that? Why would you send that to Ben? Is that because you knew this book was coming, or you wanted to hear what Ben's reaction was?
As it developed, we realised it was coming. It literally started out, you thought it'd be a magazine article, but as it went on, as I started talking, it just went on and on and on, and we didn't know it would be a book till about 2/3 of the way through. But it was the only way for Ben to understand what was going on in my head, which is there's no point just talking about the scripts. You might as well see what I'm actually working on here. And I'd send them at 3 a.m. You wake up the next day, you think, "Oh, that's rubbish. I've gone completely wrong. The plot's gone wrong," and I'll take it in a different direction. So to see the script changing is what I mean.
So did you feel, Ben, as though halfway through this project you became almost like a script advisor, or ideas advisor, or some kind of filter?
At times, I tried to keep quiet when it came to saying what I liked and what I didn't like, because I didn't want to influence the process. But inevitably, after sort of 9-10 months of that, occasionally I would suggest the odd thing and say, "I love that. That's absolutely fantastic," or "Not so keen on that scene." But I tried not to overall.
But I would change things. It's if I agreed with Ben, I would then change them, because you'll take a good note from anyone anywhere.
Is the honest answer to where do the ideas come from? They just come into your head. I mean, there's a reference in the book to I think when you decided to kill off Billy Piper's character, it just occurred to you in a taxi.
Yes.
Isn't that? I mean, it's kind of mundane, but actually you're just going along, and all of a sudden thinking, maybe I'll do that. That's quite good.
The truth of it, that's why it's the best job in the world. Actually, very often it's when you're away from your desk. Actually, you could be shopping. You could actually be watching TV. And I remember having a pizza once and working out an entire plot while I was talking to someone. It just goes on all the time
So
in
you're
your
paying
head.
attention to that.
Yeah, not great fun to be my friend.
But
really.
even that instance, actually, the back of the taxi, it was Kylie's
Yes,
characters.
Kylie's character. You're right.
Death. But even that, it was I think it was a lot of demands of the story as a whole, needing a certain ending, the relationship with the other characters. So it wasn't just sort of out of thin air, was it?
It's always come from somewhere. And in the end, it's not so much where do you get your ideas from. I sort of conclude it's more like, this is why I'm doing this job, because I have lots of ideas. It's the way I think anyway. It's the shape of your brain in the end.
And do we learn from this when and where you are at your most creative?
I think
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, 3 o'clock in the morning. I do work late at night, and I love it.
And where do you need to be?
I'm not. I've got a house in Manchester, and I've got an office. I've got a flat in Cardiff. So just at the desk, just at the computer,
Pacing up and down.
Not really. Smoking too much, and coffee, and late at night, and adrenaline and pressure.
And do you work best on your own? I mean, obviously you're emailing this stuff to Ben, but do you just want to be left alone quietly?
Absolutely.
Get on with it.
Yeah, that's why the phone doesn't ring then and the email isn't so busy. And actually, I found when I started this process, I didn't know what it would be like having Ben there at the end of an email to tell stuff to. And
It was weird at first, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it might be very odd. Actually, I loved it in the end. It was someone to talk to. It was a release and a conscience.
And with this book coming out, does it make you think, I must be mad to give this up? Or, alternatively, thank the good Lord that's finished?
A bit of both, actually. No, if I really thought it was mad to give it up, I wouldn't have. And I'm just leaving, for me, at exactly the right time before I get bored. I can't ever imagine being bored of Doctor Who, but before I get too repetitive or cynical about it or formulaic. Actually, it just feels good. It just feels absolutely right.
One thing I did learn from the book was how hard Russell works. I mean, I was joking about it earlier, but actually it is sort of a 24-hour job. It consumes your whole life, and to do that for 4 or 5 years is just exhausting.
One thing we do learn from the book is that Stephen Moffat was offered the job in July 2007.
I think you'll see how much a lot of stuff is planned way, way, way in advance, and also how much we improvise on the hoof sort of stuff. I was developing a new companion, for example, before we realised that Catherine Tate would be willing to come back in the show. That came as a complete shock to us, just because we thought Catherine Tate, she's got her own career, she writes her own stuff, she's doing films. Never thought she'd be free. And a chance conversation cropped up with the head of drama, where she said, "Oh, I'd love to go back and do that again," and we pounced on it. So it's part planned. Part improvised, and I think that's a good way to do it. I think you can plan too much sometimes.
Was there any ever doubt that it would be offered to Stephen Moffat to take over?
Not really. No, I lived in fear.
Because you got emails from him in this book as well saying, "Wow,
Yes.
thanks, guys."
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it was a long conversation between a lot of people, but I can't imagine who it would have been. I'm worried about who takes over from him now. As a Doctor Who fan, that terrifies me. Ben, start writing.
I'll do it. Yeah.
You can
Was it in your gift?
No, it wasn't in my game. I had a say in it because I was there, and it's not as formal as that, because Stephen had worked with us for 4 years. He was sort of the only name on everyone's lips, really, and our dread was just that he already had the best world in a way, in that he could write a Doctor Who and run away and write his own stuff. So my only worry was that he was in a comfy position and didn't need to do it. Of course, he was dying to do it, but so it was a lot of us talking all the time, much more informal than just a positive offer sort of thing.
From your position, Ben, what difference is that going to make then? I don't know whether Stephen will send you emails in a
Look me
minute,
there.
but in terms of someone who just enjoys watching Doctor Who when it comes on Saturday, what difference will it be?
Honestly, I think people are expecting some sort of huge change, and I don't think necessarily they're going to get that. I think the current team has hit on a formula that works, and Stephen has been part of that team, contributing to each and every series, even making odd suggestions to episodes which he didn't script himself. And so I don't imagine people will see a huge change. You'll have to ask him as to what perhaps he's got in mind in terms of particular stories. But
he's done some of the most. I mean, viewed from the outside, he's done some of the more scary
Absolutely,
stuff.
the one with the statues, and the ones with the gas masks, and But again, I think, and he has said this, so I'm not putting words into his mouth, that people then expect it to be completely terrifying for 14 weeks now, but he knows better than anyone that the show thrives on variety, that if you're scary every week, the scares will run out. Actually, they'll run thin.